You ready to bitch slap this episode?
Yes, this was episode 8 of House of the Dragon Season 2.
Getting real close to the end of the season now.
This was the end of the season. Episode 8.
Out of 10.
Of 8.
Are you sure? Because,
I'm fairly certain, yeah.
don't we get like a big battle or something in the next episode? Like, next week?
I mean, I think maybe we get a big battle next episode. It's just not going to be next week. It's going to be in 2 years.
In a year, you mean?
In 2. I have to agree, it really did not feel like a final episode of a season. Shall we just be honest? It was kind of weak, especially compared to the final episode of last season.
Very wet noodle vibes.
Yeah. Would have preferred a dry noodle, really.
For as many spoilers as there were about this episode, I was kind of expecting it to be grand and exciting.
I was really expecting a spoiler warning in this episode because now everyone who also didn't read the book knows how certain big events are going to end.
Well, more of a suspicion. I guess we don't know if Helena's going to be right, like she usually is.
Yes, because they have set up for long enough that she is typically right about her prophecies, and they were just off the wall in this episode.
I think it might be the most screen time that Helaena has had.
Also for the amount of press this season has gotten, and it has all kind of revolved around it being you need to be either Team Green or Team Black, and it has so little base in the actual action within the show, I think, because do anybody care? Alicent is clearly not.
Yeah, even their figurehead Green is a black at this point.
Mm-hmm. Did we like anything in this episode? Yes, we did. We did, right?
Did we?
Yes, the monkey. Very cute monkey.
It was a cute monkey, wasn't it?
Yes.
Monkaroo.
And it's not like we're going to be 100% negative, but let's be honest, this is not going to be a rave of review.
No, we're gonna tank it. My god, I can't believe I gave the last episode, a 9 out of 10?
This is going back to 0 out of 0 Dreamfyres, isn't it?
Definitely.
It's almost negative Dreamfyres at this point because they also teased it, which is just making me even more angry.
Yeah, and basically saying that Helaena hates Dreamfyre with the rage of 1,000 suns.
For anyone who has not read the books, it's not a spoiler, but in the books it is a point that Helaena loved to ride her dragon. And obviously in the books, the reason she is not riding into battle is not because she can't stand the dragon she claimed. It's because she is completely catatonic from having seen her son murdered in front of her.
A fact that in the series, it's not that big of a deal, really. To Helaena nor to Alicent. In the series, she is simply not a warrior, and she hates riding her dragon.
And speaking of Jaehaerys, which not enough people are doing, I don't think, what is truly so annoying about this, especially this season, I think, but this show, is that compared to Game of Thrones, Bran falling out of the window was something that was felt throughout the entire 8 seasons of the show. It was something everybody talked about, and a war broke out. Catelyn rode south and she captured Tyrion, and things just went to hell because one child was pushed out of a window and people weren't even sure if he were pushed. It's something that was so obvious, but here Luke is killed and people talk about it, but it is fairly quickly forgotten. And then a child is murdered in his bed and there's a funeral procession and it's forgotten. It doesn't seem to have the same impact. I'm sorry if this sounds callous, but Bran didn't even die. And it just felt like it had so much more gravity to it.
It's some weak sauce HBO.
A little bit. I don't understand why they are doing this, why they are making Helaena gloss over it by saying that lots of people die and Alicent is more concerned for Helaena, but then she's just going and selling them all out and she has completely forgotten about her grandchild. It's just, it is fairly inhuman. And I mean that not in a way that it's so cruel. I mean that I don't see humans act this way. It feels unbelievable. They need people to act a certain way for the plot that they want, so they're not allowing them to have complicated feelings.
It gives me the feeling that they wanted a specific story to come out of this. And there's a lot of elements written in the book that it doesn't seem like they really wanted to be true. They didn't really want to include them. And so they spend a lot of time justifying those things that they didn't really like or that they feel like, oh, that makes these characters that are super cool, that we love, that are supposed to be the good guys, it makes them look really bad. So we need to force their hand so that it doesn't seem like it comes from a place where they are okay with what they're doing. They justify it themselves.
And then in addition to doing that, they need people to not act the way they are naturally inclined to do, because they just don't have time to do that. That's not the story they want to tell. I kind of just wish they let characters be a little bit more unfinished, a little bit raw and messy in a way, instead of trying to tie everything up into a neat little bow.
I mean, we're here for the mess. We're here for the drama.
And when they are doing mess, it's not done in a way that feels satisfying whatsoever. Alicent sacrificing her children? Her entire arc was about protecting them and not wanting to see them hurt.
Yeah, but they turned out evil. And she realized she's been toiling in the service to men. And now she's joining her best friend. And if that costs her a child or two, plus a grandchild, like, so be it, you know? So be it.
It feels as if they are using Alicent to say, see, not even a mother could love these children. They're so evil that even their own mother wants them gone. Which is not satisfying whatsoever. It was incredibly satisfying to see Cersei still love Joffrey, even though he was the worst spawn of Satan himself. And it just felt so human. It humanized her, and it made you feel something when she still loved Joffrey and he kept treating her worse and worse. Whereas here, it's just, there is none of that. It feels so empty.
And it's such a big leap from the first season as well, I feel.
Agreed. Because this is what we seem to be the most upset and obsessed about, shall we just talk about Alicent being the worst?
I'm starting to understand the hate for the character.
I have to say, she was my favorite character after season 1. I found her really compelling. She was flawed, obviously, but she was interesting and she had depth, and she just felt like a whole human who tried to do some good, who did some bad, and was a desperate person put into a difficult situation, and that was interesting to watch. That's why I like this show. And now she just eat, pray, loved her way all to Dragonstone, and she is sacrificing her firstborn child. This doesn't even feel like the same character even remotely. I do, however, think it's a little bit strange that Alicent is saying she hated Rhaenyra because Rhaenyra knew what she wanted, when what she truly hated Rhaenyra for is that she swore upon her dead mother, she lied, she got her father fired, and completely messed up things when Alicent tried to help her.
But she was just jealous because Rhaenyra is so free.
I do get being jealous of Rhaenyra because they both live in a patriarchal society where Rhaenyra is the most exempt woman from all of it. And she still pretends like she's the biggest victim of it.
Well, she has no choice. Her whole life has been decided for her.
I felt like this scene was very strange. There are so many issues I have with it. I do think the actors were fantastic, amazing. But sort of the bones of the scene feel like they're a little weak.
I do agree. I think maybe I'm a little bit biased as well, because this is really not the arc I wanted for Alicent. After the first season, I really, really liked her character. I found her very interesting. And this whole season, it feels like they're taking the character in a completely different direction, a direction that I don't particularly like. And I feel like some parts of it are directly opposite what her character was like in the first season, with how fiercely she wanted to protect her family. Suddenly she's okay with sacrificing a couple of her children in order to be free herself. And throughout the whole season, she's just sort of been displaying the behavior of a neglectful mother over and over to her children. It's been really exhausting to watch. And this obviously is probably the biggest betrayal to her own family.
This is horrendous. This is so awful. And this is towards a woman that is in bed with the man who had her grandchild murdered.
And who now wants to murder your other children. Here she's given away her family, basically, and is back on Rhaenyra's side. After she quite firmly opposed her in that, was it episode 5? We get the dress scene.
5, and then again in episode 7 at Driftmark, she cut Rhaenyra. She was so angry because Rhaenyra got away with having one of her children maimed without receiving punishment. It felt like a very...
no turning back sort of moment.
Exactly. And then she did.
And then she starts biting her fingers again. I think I'm just wondering what sort of meaning it has that she's back at doing that when we haven't really seen her do that.
I'm not even sure if I can try to find meaning in any of her character anymore. I feel like I've tried this season. I really do feel like I've tried. But I have to say this scene almost felt a bit like fan service-y. Again, with sort of Rhaenyra blaming Alicent for all of this, for this war, and for everything that has gone wrong, as if not half the realm is marching to defend the Iron Throne against Rhaenyra the Cruel, as if not all the other powers were working against her. It's so easy to lay the blame on Alicent for mistaking Viserys' words when she came to the Green Council and they were gonna go ahead with their plan anyways, so it seems really immature, it seems simplified, and I don't think you need to simplify it. And Alicent even saying Viserys was resolute in his choice of heir, but he wasn't. He did waver. And we saw that in the episode when Aegon turned too. There are so many inconsistencies here that I'm almost thinking this character is the most unreliable narrator of her own life. It's just, she must have some serious amnesia going on. And for everyone who said that Rhaenyra would never kill her siblings, here she is. What of Aegon? I mean, I don't think she's wrong, but I've been saying this the whole time. You cannot have someone with a better claim to what you want wandering around, because it's going to be a problem. It's always going to be a problem.
But isn't both Aemond and Daeron also threats with stronger claims to the throne than Rhaenyra, then technically?
Yes, and by she I mean Alicent, has clearly given away what Aemond is going to do, so she's probably accepting that he's going to die. I don't know what she's planning on doing with Daeron, but I mean, she must know that he's not going to be able to live either.
And to still care more about her than her own children? But I suppose she just dislikes her own children now because they turned out evil, and she feels guilty for all of her shortcomings as a mother, and to Viserys maybe for misunderstanding him, to the realm because they're now at war, to her own family because they could have killed off Rhaenyra, like her council did want them to kill Rhaenyra in the night when Viserys first died, and Alicent was the one who very much shut that down as she got control over Aegon and got him to ask for some terms instead. And that is something that her family, especially, also very much blamed her for. And Aemond too, of course.
Fine for blaming her for that. And also her doing that felt like it was in line with her character. But this is just insanity.
Do you not feel like it's in line with the character she's been this season?
So many of these episodes this season just seem to shock me when it comes to Alicent again and again. And I'm trying to sort of wrap my head around how this makes sense for this character. What really ticked me off is Rhaenyra saying a son for a son. Because Jaehaerys is clearly forgotten. And also, there has been a son for a son. The price has been paid. It was Aegon's son, and Daemon said those very words. They did pay the price. And also, the invoice for the eye is still not paid. You cannot be okay with one and not the other. It's incredibly frustrating. It's very Karen behavior. Rhaenyra just pretending that Alicent will get everything she wants by doing this? Is she insane? Is she clinically insane?
I mean, what is Rhaenyra losing on accepting this?
Rhaenyra is still thinking that she is the only one who has suffered because she lost Luke. Newsflash, you're not. The victim mentality is really getting to me.
So much of Rhaenyra's dialogue feels like could have been directed at Rhaenyra.
Yes, that's very interesting. I do like that.
So Alicent is giving up the plans that they have for Cole and Aemond. And Gwaine is also there, isn't he? So she's kind of throwing her own brother under the bus as well.
Because even though she doesn't really have power as Queen Dowager anymore, she's using the one card she has left, and that is high treason. Good for her. Great, classy behavior. The fact that she is nodding to have Aegon killed is so cold. I think it's really sad. Just made me sad to see this scene. I mean, the actress is amazing. I just wish there was something to support this, like build up, that I felt believable.
And this is such an evil thing to do to your children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And nothing is forcing Alicent's hand here.
I suppose maybe the only thing is that she is trying to think of this as her saving Helaena and sacrificing not only her other children, but her entire extended family, all the armies, because she is giving up the plans, so...
Yeah, we do see her physically try to protect Helaena from Aemond earlier in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And her love for Helaena has been shown throughout the season.
It has.
And that scene we have earlier in this episode with Helaena and Alicent, they do talk about how Helaena didn't want to be queen, or she was happier before she was queen.
Did you like that? I felt like it was just a little bit forced. Like, it's such a perfectly placed line in this episode where she is deciding that I'm going to take you away so you're no longer queen.
Very conveniently placed here for Alicent to try to fly away into the sunset with Helaena.
We had a couple of those moments in this episode.
We haven't seen Helaena particularly seem to enjoy her role as queen, however, so it doesn't necessarily go against her character.
No, I agree.
And with all the awful things that have happened to Helaena after she has become queen in the short amount of time that has passed, could imagine it being true, but Helaena hasn't really experienced being queen in that normal role of being queen, right? It's just been queen under wartime, essentially, while being the wife to someone who usurped the throne.
Who took his rightful place.
Yeah, rightful place, usurpation, you know, you can call it depending on how you want to frame it, I suppose. But regardless, a lot of people see it like that.
I just don't see Alicent as this dumb. I kind of feel like she was a fairly decent ruler when Viserys was ill. And the fact that she seemed to think that she can just run away into the forest with her daughter and that is going to be fine seems naive. Because she is hinging everything. She is kind of doing everything for this living in the forest as a cave woman with Helaena. She is sacrificing everything and everyone for it. Not only Aegon, but it seems implied because she is giving away the plans of Aemond, and Kristen is there as well. And I think it really hurts because we see Kristen this episode. I really like the scene of him talking about Alicent. And it just hurts that little bit extra, the fact that she is willing to just throw him under the bus, under the, 7 dragons that Rhaenyra has?
Yeah, but he did use her name without leave that one time. She didn't like that. Her cowl was kind of cute with the napkin though. Sniffy.
Little handkerchief.
Yeah. He misses her.
I thought it was really nice how we got a look into why Alicent means so much to him. And we also, in the same breath, got an explanation of how he got away with murdering, Joffrey Lonmouth? The Night of Kisses or whatever at Rhaenyra's wedding. Because he said that Alicent saved him from the axe or whatever.
But could that not have been from the stuff with Rhaenyra?
I don't know, maybe, yeah. Maybe my immediate thought just went to the fact that she probably saved him from death from that, but you're right.
Could be.
And obviously we saw the scene where she saved him from himself.
It was a moving scene, yeah.
And I always think it's interesting when they talk about sort of the oaths they take and sort of the love and desire. You see that a lot throughout the universe, really. We saw it a lot in Game of Thrones with the whole love is the death of duty, or was it the other way around? You know, who knows? And how that can be very against human nature and very difficult. And I love that when Gwaine said that his Kingsguard brothers find a way, he's just like, do they though? Do you really know if they do? Because it's a difficult way to live.
I mean, Cole would know because he tried it. Didn't work out so well.
What does he say? Love of women brought me nothing but grief or something?
And in front of all these people too, there is no privacy. They are proudly oogling their conversation.
And I think that's really fun because it goes with the way he is saying that there will be some relief in death. It's such an interesting place to be mentally. Like, he's not directly thinking about ending it all like he has been before, but he is also feeling that pain where you see the silver lining of dying. I thought it was a really beautiful line, and it clearly had an impact on Gwaine as well. And obviously this is coming after he has seen the dragons burn people. He seems a little bit disillusioned about kind of the finery of the oaths that soldiers take.
Definitely made a huge impact on him and his character. And that's nice to see that when a character experiences something like that, obviously, it will leave a mark. And it has on both him and Gwaine.
I really like that too, that you can see it changes something in them. Kristen has been obsessed with sort of honor, and it just made me think that like words can sound really great. The way Rhaenyra last episode talked to the dragon seeds, how they would save the realm and spare people so much pain and death and suffering. But when you get to the reality of the thing, it's so brutal, and it's nothing like these beautiful words or like the honorable songs, and it's just, there are two different worlds and they kind of collide when you have to experience reality. I thought that's a link I took. I'm not sure it's supposed to be there. And obviously we see this reality of surviving Dragonfire that Aegon did is not so pretty or amazing either.
Where's our scrambled Aegon?
Yeah, Larry seems to be the only person left who has faith that Aegon can be of use and that he is still valuable and a hope. Because while Aegon is understandably really depressed and upset about living in such a constricted body, Larry seems to try his very best to make him look forward and give him some sort of purpose.
It does break my heart a little that the first thing Aegon mentions is that Sunfire is dead.
Yeah, He did love his dragon. We just were not shown many scenes of it.
The symbolism of Aegon wanting Rhaenyra's title that she was given by the people is also a bit heartbreaking.
Do you think it's that he wanted that title?
To me, it kind of read as if he wanted that love that Rhaenyra was granted. He wanted people to love him.
I agree
like
on
they
that.
loved her.
And the fact that Rhaenyra was so much held up like this hope and this wonderful thing for the realm for so long, and Larys is the first person to give that to Aegon as well. That's at least how I read it. It was really heartbreaking, truly.
And the fact that it takes Larys for him to be shown any of this appreciation.
It's really sad.
Yeah.
Saw that when Aegon was ruling, he kind of has proof that people didn't believe in him. They didn't listen to him. They made their own decisions. They didn't include him. And that's how he ended up just going to Rook's Rest alone, he thought. And was nearly killed by his brother.
Aegon has been let down by a lot of people.
And especially in this episode, we see him so hurt. And Alicent is just literally delivering him as a lamb to the slaughter.
Luckily, he escapes.
I mean, I never thought I'd say this, but thank God for Larys, which is a wild thing to say. I wonder how much of Larys acting this way is him manipulating Aegon and wanting to be... Because obviously if Aegon triumphs, as Helaena predicts, then Larys is going to be incredibly valuable to him, and he knows that he is going to have a very, very important seat at the table. So how much of this is manipulation of Aegon, and how much of it, because I think there is some of it, some sympathy and sort of seeing himself in Aegon as a kindred cripple spirits. That's not my finest moment, but yes, recognizing that they have some similarities in their suffering. Also, can I just say, I love the makeup for Aegon. It's so good. Often when you see this much sort of prosthetic on a face, it's very difficult to make it look like skin. It so often looks just a touch too plasticky. You can see it, it's a little bit too shiny. You can't really see pores, which obviously you don't see pores on scar tissue anyways, but it's so well done. It's matte, but it's not overly matte. You can't really see the transitions. The thing, whatever they have done to his eye is so good. And obviously the lens or the contact lens he's wearing on that one eye is so good. I'm so impressed. I can't stop looking at it. It's just really good. And also, exactly on this shot, no, the previous one, there we are, getting that side of the face to look so flat as it does, as if it were burned away, because obviously the actor's ear is still under there. You need to kind of press it flat to really have it, you need to hide it, but you don't want it to look like there's an ear under the burnt away ear. And it just looks so good. I'm so enjoying just looking at it. We've obviously seen the progression from like burnt to a crisp to now scarring. I love it. I love it so much. I really enjoy it. Okay.
Only thing that confuses me a little is this thing under the nose. What is that?
It looks like a keloid scar. That can happen when you have scar tissue and it keeps growing when you get more scar tissue than was originally there.
Oh. Well, I certainly wish him a very, very good vacation and a nice time abroad. Hopefully it will do his health some good.
I wish him to rain fire upon his enemies.
Gonna be a bit of a challenge.
The scenes between Aegon and Larys have really been a highlight for me. We get so much insight into both of the characters. The actors are absolutely amazing. And this is what I truly love in this show. It's when you have scenes like this where they're not pushing it into your face what is happening, but there is still so much happening beneath everything. That sounds a bit floaty. I am sorry about that, but there is just so much subtext.
Every character is an onion.
Instead of what did we mention as something that felt like you're telling the viewers what is happening, a bit like Corlys did this episode. But we are very happy to see him having escaped. My goodness, I can't believe Alicent tried to have him killed.
Ah, she does that.
Oh, she does that. And I thought it was really interesting because obviously Larys doesn't know about Alicent's incredibly insane and selfish and just moronic little day trip to Rhaenyra. He is worried about Aemond finishing off Aegon, which I thought was really interesting. And he's probably not entirely wrong either. Aemond seems particularly unhinged, and there's something I really quite enjoy about it, because he has been such a dickhead that it's a bit satisfying to see him stress out for once instead of just acting cool and like he has the upper hand, because he no longer does.
There's always something very satisfying when you are shifting sort of the scales and the balance of who is the stronger opponent and who has all of the advantages.
I agree, because you see so much development in a character, typically, hopefully, which makes it very interesting, because he is desperate and he is making his desperation other people's problem at this point as well. We can see that he is not the most level-headed ruler. Once he is feeling that desperation, he seemed to be ignoring his council, maybe even more than usual. And obviously when they are informing him of how Rhaenyra got more dragon riders, and Aemond wants to just make sure it doesn't happen again, which makes absolutely no sense because there are no more dragons to ride in the vicinity, right? We do know of a dragon that Rhaena is running after like an incessant little... Anyways.
They do have wild dragons on Dragonstone as well though, don't they?
Yeah, maybe he is afraid.
But there is no proof of them being able to claim a wild dragon anyway.
No. And he's already so outnumbered that he should think of a different strategy anyways. I don't know. So it doesn't seem like the wisest choice to kind of cut off the fishing boats and make getting food even more difficult.
Isn't fish the only thing the people are eating at the moment?
It seems like it, because they had enough to throw some on Alicent.
At least they have some excess then.
Yeah.
Luckily, he doesn't hear they're plotting to leave King's Landing as he arrives. I don't think he would have liked to hear that.
He has a different plan for Helaena.
Oh, yes. Like, I wouldn't be too mad, because, like, at least we get to see Dreamfyre.
But no.
It's the first time we see him be violent towards his sister, isn't it?
I think so.
And Alicent has to protect Helaena again. She's done a couple times already this season.
Mm-hmm.
Helaena does very much seem to be Alicent's favorite child. I suppose it could make sense for this being something that pushed for Alicent's little trip to Dragonstone as well, seeing how Aemond is now putting pressure on Helaena to go into battle herself, something she absolutely does not want.
I think you're right, but because she asked Helaena what she would think about going somewhere else, it's not the first time she's had the idea. I mean,
No.
she's already thought about it.
It was already on her mind.
Yeah, I do feel for Helaena, who seemed to have hurt her arm by Aemond being an arsehole. Also, Aemond totally deserves this, because he would have another dragon rider if he did not burn Aegon to a crisp. If he just went like medium rare, maybe Aegon and Sunfire would still be fine.
I mean, it was a super stupid move, wasn't it?
So
But
dumb.
I suppose he was just so cocky that with Vhagar, their other dragons was just excess anyway. Which is dumb, but...
Yeah, I still feel like it's on the edge of being too dumb, but we are where we are. So we're working with what we have, and he completely deserves being desperate for dragon riders now. But we do see Aemond try a different approach, so he's not completely void of any brain cells. He does try to approach Helaena with a sort of softer
approach.
Yes, and try to plead to her that Alicent doesn't understand and this is what we need to do and yada yada yada. And Helaena is just, shh, I'm seeing things. Because we get quite a bit of spoilery vision stuff this episode.
Helaena is telling us she's seen the next seasons of the show.
Which we wish we had. We'd love to know where this is going.
They have kept it quite mysterious with how Helena's powers work. But now it seems like she actually sees things.
Yeah, maybe she's a green seer.
She's being a lot more coherent with her predictions in this season. Just spelling it out.
Because previously her predictions were obvious to people who had read the books. But now they seem to be completely outright, you are going to die.
You think they felt like they were too difficult to understand for the viewers in the first season, since they've changed it so much?
I don't know, because the beginning of the season she said she was scared of the rats, and that also only made sense if you had read the books. So I don't entirely know, and I think it's so much more rewarding to have these prophecies make sense on the second watch, or if you already know what's going to happen, because it's just a little less on the nose, as we talked about. It's a little less spoon-feeding the audience what is happening. It feels like you're treated less like a child and more like an adult, which this show is very clearly for. So I don't know, because all her predictions have come true, so why would you make her give away so many spoilers? Don't you want people to be, I don't know. You know, some people just love to spoil things, like spoil shows and books and movies. Maybe this particular writer...
Maybe Helaena is like that? And maybe Helaena is like that?
No, I meant maybe whoever wrote this episode is like that.
That makes more sense.
Although it would be incredibly funny if she sat with all this knowledge, because it has kind of seemed implied previously that she knew what was going to happen, but she wasn't even coherent enough to tell people about it and warn them. And suddenly she's just, I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm just going to spoil everybody's lives and endings and YOLO. I also thought, if she knows what is going to happen, why is she asking Alicent, where would I go? I mean, doesn't she know what is going to happen?
I mean, maybe she doesn't know everything, but that she's seen these specific things.
That makes sense. She has clearly had these visions that she is spoiling/telling Aemond about. But I think the weirdest thing this episode is that she is entering a vision of Daemon's, who has had plenty of them this season, and he keeps following the witch. And let's just talk about what on earth went down there, because I'm not sure what I think, and I need to talk about it. What do you think about the vision that Daemon has? Is this finally going to be the last one?
It did feel kind of final.
Agreed.
Is Alice crying here?
It definitely looks like it, yeah.
We do see a clear change in Daemon, and he seems to be claiming a vision for himself rather than having Alice put them in his head. Which is the first. I don't know. I didn't maybe love this vision, but I feel like every time they tie in that Song of Ice and Fire and like, oh, it's the destiny and all these things, like it's not my favorite. To me, it feels a bit forced. I don't know if I like that Daemon's decision in regards to his loyalty to Rhaenyra is just relying on this prophecy that he suddenly got to see a little vision of.
Well, he didn't even just see a little bit of the vision, he sees the entire thing. He sees this person with the mark on his face is Brynden Rivers, which is in the television show The Three-Eyed Raven / The Old Man in the Three that Bran meets. He is the last Greenseer, very magical person. And then he goes all the way. He sees the White Walker. He sees the White Walkers marching on the wall. He sees a dead dragon. He sees, Daenerys with the eggs. He just sees all of it. I just think it's such a bit of a cop-out. I am a bit exhausted with this prophecy being the reasoning behind all of these, a lot of these characters doing anything. And I've talked about this before, kind of inserting a holier than thou cause. Like, this is bigger than all of us. It makes it very much good versus evil. It makes it so that you're almost saying that, yes, all of this is awful, but we're doing it for a higher cause, so it's okay. It removes the agency of the individuals. It just makes it all of the decisions that people make when they're making it because they saw things in a tree, it just makes it a lot less interesting, I think. I care about what makes people make one decision instead of another in a difficult situation, and not just, well, I'm going to do this because a prophecy told me to.
I do agree, because the polarity of good versus evil, to me, is not as interesting as exploring humanity and the many facets of it.
Agreed.
When you just make it, oh, but the good of humanity is to follow this prophecy because the White Walkers are bad, evil, want evil stuff. Like, it's an obvious choice, right? And it's just, are you good or are you evil? And if you do not follow this prophecy, it's because you choose evil.
Yeah.
And like you say, it feels a bit like a cop-out then, when the characters do all these awful things because, oh, but if we don't, this prophecy can't come true, and then more evil happens. Because you can just justify any evil action you do because you need to avoid this greater evil in the future because of a prophecy.
Yeah. So even though it's visually fun to look at, it just isn't really that amazing. Like, it just does. I just don't find it that exciting. I wonder if this shot of Daemon falling into the bloody river is supposed to be Rhaegar. Do you think? Because Rhaegar is obviously dies on the battlefield and he sinks to the bottom.
He does. Viserion also falls into water and sinks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually both of them meeting a watery end.
And isn't it said that Rhaegar had these red rubies all over his armor? They were all over, so people went into the water to try to collect them. Maybe I'm making that last part up.
Wait, which dragon was that?
No, not dragon. I'm talking about Rhaegar, the person.
Oh, Rhaegar. I thought you said Rhaegal, the dragon. Rhaegal.
No. Rhaegar, obviously slain by heroic Robert Baratheon.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the dragons who fell to watery deaths.
No, I just thought that because Daemon is walking through the bloody water and then he falls through it. So, and obviously he's Targaryen, he'll look quite like Rhaegar, and with the red water and everything because Rhaegar had those red rubies. I don't know, I just wondered if you thought that was it, but we were thinking of completely different things, weren't we?
Little bit, it seems. In the shot with the dead dragon, it kind of looks like there are multiple dragons in the background, like wings.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's many dead dragons here in this shot. I wonder if that's connected to the dance.
I would think so. Just thought maybe that could tell the story of the Dance of the Dragons and then moving on to everything Brynden Rivers being getting into that tree, and then we have Rhaegar and everything leading up to Daenerys. What armor do these people in the water have on?
Wet.
Impossible to wet. Okay.
And then Helaena shows up, astral projecting into this vision.
To help out the murderer of her firstborn son.
I think if I was her, I'd use this opportunity to cut his head off, or at least punch him in the face, but...
Make him stuck in that vision forever, maybe? It seems so dumb that suddenly she knows as well, and she's okay with everything awful that has happened because this prophecy is so much more important than anything else.
And in one of the previous episodes, she does specifically ask Aemond if it was worth it, referencing probably when he killed or attempted to kill Aegon. She asks, was it worth the price? Or is she talking about Luke there?
No, I think she talks about Aegon at that point.
Yeah.
Because it's when he's staring at the throne.
So she could have done a little dig at Daemon here, I feel.
Oh, that would have been
at
really
the
satisfying.
Very least. Yeah. After that vision, when she's talking to Daemon, we jump straight to the scene with Aemond. And it kind of looks like she's just standing out there gazing at King's Landing while talking to Daemon, and then Aemond comes to interrupt.
Yeah, and it does seem like the vision she is entering in and the whole vision that Daemon has is kind of playing into how he decides to support Rhaenyra, that he is kind of being offered the chance to betray her, but after seeing that vision, he is on her side. One thing that happens at Harrenhal that I found kind of interesting is that Sir Alfred is kind of offering Daemon the option to betray Rhaenyra. And I think, again, this proves that this entire challenge of Rhaenyra is not entirely Alicent's fault, because even her own supporters are doubting her and looking for other alternatives. So it's again proof that her ascension would not be without issue.
It feels like this season has kind of built up this story for Daemon to make a choice in whether he should try to go for the throne himself or take a step back and truly support Rhaenyra's claim. So we were waiting a little bit for a moment for him to make that choice.
And he does that later, after the vision, though. He doesn't entirely...
Right, because this is before the vision, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Rhaenyra's had many big wins with all the new dragons she's added to her side. And of course, this scene is another big win for her, where she gets to claim Daemon's loyalty back, which has been sort of an unsteady alliance at best for her this season. And now he firmly shows that he is behind her claim, which is good for her. Gives her all the power of Harrenhal and the armies that he has put together there at Harrenhal. And Caraxes too, of course, whom she hasn't really counted as one of her dragons. And she's stronger than ever, which she also was at the end of the last episode. So this is sort of just another strength for her. I'm not a super fan of his reasoning for supporting Rhaenyra being the vision. It's been kind of unclear where Daemon's loyalties lie and which way he's gonna be swaying. And I was really curious to see what he would do. And now, because of the vision, it just feels like, okay, but then...
It settled it.
Yeah. And it's not, like you said before, it's just not that interesting.
No. I kind of feel like that about this entire scene.
If not for the vision, if this was some inner workings of his mind, him evolving as a human or learning or, you know, performing some introspection and coming out with this idea to put aside his own wants for the throne and support Rhaenyra, I think that would have made this scene stronger for me, because it is a powerful moment where he's actually bending his knee to her and fully placing himself at her mercy, showing that he is, and everything he has is hers, kind of. But I feel like everything that they drag the prophecy into is just sort of sullies the scene. Because who's gonna argue against them saving the world from the White Walkers, you know?
Yeah.
Another strong point for me during the episode was Tyland's little monkey adventure.
Yeah.
I don't even know where he went. But the monkey's hella cute. And Tyland's sitting on the floor, bonding with the natives of the location, which I still don't know where is. But it's important. It's responsible for the blockade. And Tyland, our great Lannister hero, is here to revoke it. He's gonna be the savior, King's Landing.
Oh, he's in Essos, it seems like.
Oh, he's in Essos. We're in Essos, and they want the stepstones. The most popular stones in all the realms. They've been fighting about them stones since the first episode, I think. I was surprised at how much time they spent on this storyline with Tyland, because we got quite a bit of him and this new character.
Lothan or something?
Just a very cool character. Very fresh. Feels different.
I'm not entirely sure what this culture is inspired by, because it's very colorful, but there's also a little bit of Viking influence, especially in the hair, some of the dress.
They need to take inspiration from somewhere.
I have to say, I'm very surprised to see a mud fight in the middle of this episode. That was not on my bingo card, although it should have been because it was in the episode preview.
Oh, was it? I didn't remember that. It's not what I thought they'd spend time on in a season finale, perhaps.
I'm wondering if they're building up Tyland for next season.
He's cool. I like Tyland.
Yeah, me too. And she seems impressed by him being able to beat her somewhat in this mud. So much so that she wants his DNA.
I didn't expect that little twist there, but yeah.
That poor man.
And she seems to have wives, so it's clearly a different culture.
Yes, polygamy is accepted.
Yeah, because they make that a point that in Westeros that's like, no bueno.
Yeah, a lot of lighter moments.
Nothing lighter than cannibalism.
Well, the joking around and the mud fighting and messing him about a little bit.
Tyland looks great in the mud. His eyes just... he really looks like a little mud monster.
The actor must have been very okay with being covered in mud the way he looks.
It looks like this actor is just having so much fun with his roles in the series.
I hope he does. And it does also show that he is a really, really talented diplomat because he manages to secure what he is asked to. It's fun to see something different. Like I have enjoyed seeing more of the King's Landing common people life, just how they live and their houses, just a little bit more from them. So it's nice to also see something from Essos, something that is not just the same old stomping grounds of the royals that we have come to know.
Do you know how many men or ships they managed to get from that?
I have completely forgotten in that case.
It seemed like a lot.
Yeah, it seems like a lot. Which is a good thing since Daemon has secured his own little army and Rhaenyra is gathering her army of bastards.
Speaking of bastards.
Wow. Shall we just move on to the bastard dinner? I really liked this scene with the dragon seeds having dinner with Rhaenyra. There's so much leading up to it and we'll talk about that. But one thing I just noticed, obviously Jace has a lot of fears with these new dragon riders. And when Rhaenyra receives a raven that Daemon might betray her and she's going off to Harrenhal, she calls for Adam, not Jace, to join her. And I just think this is really proving that Jace's fears are somewhat justified because he has the smallest dragon of them all. He is being in some ways replaced. She is now taking Adam because he seems very loyal and all right and he has a bigger dragon. He's no longer the sort of innermost circle in a way.
Yeah, his doubts are not unreasonable, I think, at all. I can also understand Rhaenyra wanting to take Adam because if she fears that maybe Daemon isn't loyal to her anymore, then she's keeping her heir safe. She's not gonna be smacked down, both her and her heir, at the same time.
I completely get it, and I think it's the right decision.
But yeah, no wonder Jace feels side-placed, feels
a bit replaced.
Depromoted? Unpromoted?
Yes, unpromoted. Good. He's being demoted a little bit, for sure. She doesn't even involve him in the decision. She just calls for Adam instead. That must suck.
Absolutely. And he was sulking earlier. And Baela came to talk to him and sort of tell him to stop ruffling his feathers so much and get on Rhaenyra's side as it's for the best.
It doesn't do any good to pout or whatever.
Yeah, and he really does do that. He does take Baela's advice there, and he's standing up for Rhaenyra and the orders that Rhaenyra makes.
I really feel for Jace because I think he has some really justified concerns, and he's being told to stuff them where the sun don't shine.
Yeah, Baela is riding hard on the Rhaenyra Express. But it's easy for her to say. I mean, she doesn't have Jace's
problem.
Yeah. But they are supposed to get married, so if this becomes a problem for Jace, it would automatically also be a problem for Baela.
Yeah, she just doesn't see it, I don't think. Not really as worried as she probably should be.
She probably doesn't feel as attacked by it, as Jace probably does. It hits closer to home for him because he is a bastard himself. And so he feels insulted because they are bastards. He's a bastard. And yeah, I don't know if there's a little bit of self-hatred going on that he's taken out on these other bastards.
Because we see that when he is kind of... I'm not even sure if I would say that he is confronting them, but when he goes to see them, when they're just chatting and Ulf is sitting with his feet on the table, and Ulf has absolutely no issue pointing out that he has really dark hair.
It's common knowledge, clearly.
Even among, like, the common folk, common people. And we also see that throughout this dinner that Ulf is definitely... His shirt is getting warm, which means that he is feeling very comfortable in his new position. If you wanted to learn a new idiom.
Oh, he's feeling at home.
He feels at home. Good. Much better. And that continues even though Jace is trying to put him in his place. He just isn't really scared.
He's not faced by it.
And why should he be? No. And that probably infuriates Jace. And then he is seeing that Rhaenyra kind of has to let some of it slide. What is she going to do? And then she is choosing one of them to go with her and just leaving Jace without even saying what she's doing.
She also has a bit of a history of not letting Jace know.
Yeah.
What she's up to, what she's planning.
Yeah. Yeah, she does.
It naturally makes him feel insecure about his position. I think that makes a lot of sense.
And I'm sure there are many reasons she has called this dinner. She'd like to get to know the dragon seed.
Bonding with them is probably not a stupid decision.
No. And she had that chat with Corlys that was a bit sort of informing the audience where they're at when she talked about feeling insecure about the new dragon riders, and Corlys just told her, well, we're here now, basically. And then he had that insert about, and don't forget, there are 2 more dragons on the green side. Just FYI, if you audience didn't really know, they are there.
And Dreamfyre is a big one, because she was alive when Conqueror was around.
And she does belong to Helaena.
It does make me feel quite salty that that's not something we should obviously know by now.
Yeah, it's a bit sad we haven't seen it when we have seen so many scenes of Rhaenyra and Aemond and their dragons. She seems to have considered Corlys' advice, and she is now asking the dragon riders to go to war for her in exchange for being knighted, which has to be the funniest things in this entire episode.
Because that's not a very large reward, is it?
It's not a very large reward when you already have a dragon. You're one of, like, incredibly few people in the world. You have a massive power and someone is sitting there with a smaller power than you and saying, I'm going to make you a knight if you just do what I say.
It feels like if you serve me loyally and faithfully, then I will allow you to continue to serve me loyally and faithfully with a title. Is there anything more to being a knight than just being a sir?
No, there's all that talk in Game of Thrones about what makes a knight, where Hot Pie thinks it's if you own armor, I suppose.
So they'll get armor.
I think they can buy it. It's a bit out of touch with reality for Rhaenyra to not see that she has given nukes to people, and she thinks she can dangle a tiny little carrot and say, don't you want this? Please behave.
Would it have been smart to try to marry them in somewhere?
If you just make them lord whatever of wherever, and then you marry them in, that could potentially be a little bit better to make them have allegiance to something and make them lords, not knights. Make them wardens. I mean, if you're gonna tear down some big lords, say I'm gonna give you this and this.
And maybe try to figure out what they do want. Like that Ulf guy has a wife, right?
Yeah, and he wanted to make her a lady. He's not doing that as a knight. Because he did say that if I had a dragon, they could do anything, and she could be a lady.
Oh.
So he clearly has his eyes set a little bit higher. And I think this dinner is so interesting because Rhaenyra doesn't understand who she's talking to whatsoever.
And she's asking for a very large thing too, telling that they have to go and subdue all these large towns and they were even talking about how they have to kill so many innocent people to do this.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing to start out with. It's not a beginner quest.
Yeah, fun imbalance of the three noble people, Rhaenyra, Jace and Baela, with their tiny dragons, and the three bastards with their massive nukes. And one side is trying to control the other, and it's not the one you think.
Ulf is so charming, though, with his love for Silverwing already.
I know. And I saw a lot of people talk about this when Aemond claimed Vhagar, how maybe the rider takes on a little bit of the personality of their dragon, that they're kind of take some traits from each other. And I think it's interesting that maybe he has become more bold since claiming a dragon.
He seems the least phased by this mission they're told to do.
He's probably not a person that has gotten a lot of respect in his life. He's not huge, he's not very intimidating. So to suddenly receive a massive dragon, and he did take that little round trip through King's Landing, it must probably feel like the biggest power trip ever. Like, why would he ever be scared of anything again? There are so few people who can stand against him now.
And it is the same thing that Aemon kind of went through, isn't it?
Yeah.
Being the top dog.
And obviously Adam came to Rhaenyra with a sort of wish to learn how to ride this dragon. He came with a how to train your dragon mentality. He had seen the DVD. He really wanted to. That was his dream. He was you. But the other two came there for power and for escaping a rather miserable life.
Yeah.
I really can't wait to see how this develops. I really feel like a lot of time in this episode is dedicated to justify what Rhaenyra is planning to do, meaning kill a lot of people, or as you say, doom thousands to their death.
I mean, they've been trying to justify that the whole season, hasn't they?
But they don't do the same for Aemond. They just show a shot of him burning a lot of people and screaming. Well, the people are screaming, he is just being evil. But is it better if you have a lot of scenes with people saying, it's okay, you go ahead and kill people? Is it worse because people tell Aemond that that's bad? A bit of a moral conundrum to ponder for the next 2 years while we wait for season 3. I just find it interesting that they have so much time dedicated to try to preeminently justify it.
They do seem to be doing that a lot, and I think maybe also in the scene, it keeps feeling like a high pot meets kettle type thing,
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, it's important that you rule Rhaenyra to keep people who care more for power than for peace from ruling.
She certainly blames Alicent for doing something that her father wouldn't have wanted, but she's okay with doing it herself. She finds a justification for it. And I think that is the point a lot of times with war, that you can twist whatever you want and to make it seem like it's necessary. And again, I think the whole prophecy is giving them a bit of an out. Like, oh, she doesn't want the power. She still wants peace. She can still be untouched by the darkness that follows with seeking power, because she's doing it all because of the prophecy. Do you know how many people have deluded themselves into thinking that they are God's chosen and they need to take power? And it's not exactly unique to this fantasy story. That's something people have done throughout history for all time. I mean, we are delusional beings, and we're very fond of thinking we have a higher purpose and something is predetermined and we are just a little bit more special than other people. So this is, although it's a bit painful, it just has to happen.
It just feels so rich to me to say that, like, oh, we have to wage war so that these people who care more for power than for peace will not rule. So we will end the peace. We will...
They're all the same.
Yeah.
They're just all the same. They're all awful. Stop trying to think that they're not. I feel like someone should tell them.
It's like the child being torn in two, isn't it?
Is that a saying?
I don't know. Isn't that a story where there's two mothers who claim that a child is theirs? And then it's ruled that, okay, well then they will tear the child in half and you can get half each to see which one is the true mother, because the true mother wouldn't actually want the babe to be torn in two and would probably then be like, no, it's not mine. Let the other one have it.
I feel like maybe I've heard that before, but I definitely didn't remember it, so I appreciate you telling me again.
Well, here they're definitely choosing to tear the baby, because no one is letting the other have it.
No, they are not.
Both sides are bad mothers. Or bad rulers, I suppose. Maybe neither side was worthy of ruling.
Yeah, no, I think that's very true. They are absolutely tearing the realm apart in every sense of the word to try to sit with the broken piece left.
But do you know who's not sitting, but who is actively running throughout this entire freaking episode?
Oh, no.
So Rhaena found this small little dragon. Seems to have some mites or some scabs or something going on.
He needs a trip to the vet.
Very cool wings, though. I love the, claws or...
Yeah, it's a cool dragon.
Rhaena, she was quite shocked. And I mean, she wasn't shocked to see the dragon because she has been, running it, running after it.
Hunting it.
I'm assuming it's the appearance of the dragon that shocks her. Very unique, the way the wings are curling over the back like that. Seems a bit dangerous, maybe, for a potential rider. I'm assuming if the dragon was gonna kill Rhaena, we probably would have seen it in this episode. I don't assume they're gonna jump to the next season and just be like, oh yeah, by the way, Rhaena got torched by this wild dragon. So I'm assuming she claims it.
Yeah, it does feel like such an unfinished season, that it's almost difficult to say what they're even planning.
The Brothers of Hull is such a nice addition to the series, and I love any scene that will put Corlys in his place. So for me, it was really satisfying to watch Alyn get a chance to chew out Corlys for having neglected them, his own children, throughout their entire childhood, only to now come begging because, whoops, all of his other options are dead. He really deserved to hear it, to hear the pain of his son and the hardship that he's gone through, because Corlys just couldn't give a fuck. Felt like this episode left a lot to be desired, but this is one of the scenes that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, this felt like a complete scene, whereas the episode as a whole feels very incomplete. I almost felt like the last few minutes with that montage, they were kind of like a promo of what should have been the last 2 episodes of this season. When they announced that they were not going to do 10 episodes but 8, I tried to remain optimistic. Maybe they can still make something that feels really good and maybe it fits really well. I think that's what they said, that 8 episodes fit this story better for this season, which we now realize is a complete lie because it feels so unfinished. It's a very, very poor final episode of a season, I think.
It really feels like they just cut off the last 2 episodes rather than make the whole story fit to 8 episodes. They just went with what they had planned for those first 8 and called it a wrap there. Yeah.
A day. Maybe they could not afford another battle, but it doesn't kind of stick the way the ending of the last season did.
Well, it feels a bit like a repeat,
which felt
doesn't it? Like, ooh, now the war is really breaking out. It's kind of...
That is exactly what I felt. I felt like we spent this entire season being sold on there's a war coming. So we're kind of spending this season waiting for season 3, which is a bit much to ask for after you waited for about 2 years for the second season of a show where the entire first season felt like it was leading up to a war. You don't really want the same thing once more. It feels like very few things have moved the story along. The battle at Rook's Rest where Rhaenys died, that felt like, okay, that's an event that is moving something along. And the dragon seeds finally claiming their dragons.
Blood and cheese. Well, the impact that does on Aegon and should have done is at least...
Yeah, that's true.
But it feels very downplayed.
On the rest, yeah.
Like, we can so easily forget.
I don't feel like it moved along the story the way that it should have. That's my only problem with it.
We did get a pop of a new dragon sighted as well.
Tessarian.
Yes. She looks...
It looks beautiful.
Yes.
Electric blue.
So blue.
I understand why she is called the Blue Queen.
Oh, I love that. The two final shots where you see first Rhaenyra and then Alicent in this exact same spot. I thought that was...
Contrived. I'm just being angry.
Oh,
Go on.
You didn't like it? You didn't like the two last shots?
I think I would have liked it if they didn't spend this entire season trying to push these two characters into being the main characters when I don't feel like Alicent belongs there. I would have preferred it being Rhaenyra and Aegon instead, because I'm a bit over Alicent. I do like it, but just not what it means.
Okay, yeah, sense. I get that. I think it's visually very stimulating.
True, I'll give you that. But everything else, it's awful. No. Especially with sort of Rhaenyra looking like she is locked in a cage and Alicent being free.
I kind of got the feeling that she was written into history here with all the scrolls, because this is where they found the Targaryen line, right?
It is, but going by the conversation they had previously, Rhaenyra might not be pleased with how she is written into history.
No, probably not Alicent either.
No, but Alicent seemed fine with that. Her ego was not as big as to need to have nice things written about her. She just needed to lighten her own soul. Or what else did you think other than Rhaenyra is caged in and Alicent is out in the open and free? Did you not think that when you saw it?
I do feel that from Rhaenyra being in a tiny little cage and Alicent very like freedom vibes for sure in her shot. I think maybe there was something that spoke to me of Rhaenyra claiming her spot among the Targaryens, whereas Alicent doesn't want to be a part of that anymore. So like, yeah, freedom, but also completely away from the Targaryen anything, sort of.
Oh, I agree. I kind of saw it as Alicent is stepping away from wanting the power that Rhaenyra keeps saying that she doesn't want. And she wants to take away the power from the people who are so power hungry, because Rhaenyra only wants peace, but Alicent is coming here and Alicent just wants to fuck off in the forest.
It doesn't really spell out power hungry, this visual.
No.
So I guess overall, neither of us were super happy with this episode. But did you have anything that stuck out as like a little bit of a highlight for you?
I like Aegon and Larys, their chats.
Ooh.
So those 2 minutes were valuable for me to watch.
The dinner scene with the Targaryens and the Bastards.
Agree. That storyline is also rewarding still. And I kind of feel like that ended on a place where it feels somewhat ready for the next season. I suppose one thing that is nice is that at the end, when you see all of the armies marching, it's happening right after Alicent has basically just betrayed all of them.
She has,
so we're getting to see... Yep. So we're just getting to see all of these people who have no idea that one woman has tried to take them all down in the span of a very short conversation, where she ended the conversation about asking Rhaenyra to come join her, which was so weird. Okay, sorry. Did you have any other highlights?
I mean, Otto. We forgot to talk about Otto. We had an Otto sighting. Oh. He's in a cage.
Yes.
I wonder who's
That's
keeping
why
him.
he hasn't replied. He is a family man after all.
Aww. He didn't leave no one on red.
He didn't read them. Who do you think has him? Kind of get the feeling that this is on a ship because of all of the wood, which could imply Greyjoys.
Greyjoys? Are they in the story?
Oh, not yet.
I think it could make sense if it was a bit of an outside force that we're not too familiar with yet. Because it wouldn't serve really the Greens to have him locked up, obviously. Like, you could make an argument for Larys, but they are in great peril right now, so locking down one of their great minds is probably, I don't know, maybe not.
It would be such a strange thing to do.
Yeah. And with the Blacks, I just think they would have cut his head off. Like, he seems to not be maimed or tortured here. Like, maybe a little neglected and stuff, but like...
Somebody wants to keep him as a hostage to use for something, and when you keep him alive, you can trade him either back to the Greens or the Blacks. So it's likely to be someone who hasn't yet decided which side they want to take, don't you think?
Yep. Yep, I think that's a solid guess, even though I have no idea what the Greyjoys are up to at the moment. And of course, I like the Alyn and Corlys talk.
Yes, that's a good one too. And the Tyland storyline was a bit different.
Trying to think what my like low light would be from this episode.
Oof.
Probably saying that Helaena doesn't care for riding Dreamfyre. I'm sorry, the betrayal of that, I don't think I can ever forgive that.
That was a bit rough. I'm not gonna lie, it was rough.
Like, I get they want to sully the Greens. I get that they're all Team Black and they're mostly, maybe apart from like one person. But that's taking it too far. We all agree that Helaena is too good to be in the middle of this dispute and deserves better. Why do we need to sully her as well? I hate it. I hate that.
Yeah, I hate that too. I mean, my low light is just going to be Alicent. I tried so hard to go on the journey with this character because she was such a well sort of fleshed out character in season 1. Flawed and funny and kind of someone you could feel for.
So many good lines.
Yeah.
Did you have a single memorable line from this season? See, that pause is too long. That means no.
That means no. Because I can only think of things for season 1. Oh, what a letdown.
Dragging in the prophecy as well. While the vision itself, very cool. Tying Daemon's loyalty to the fact that he believes in this now.
Yeah.
That wasn't my cuppa.
No. Well, we've had more than one high and low light each, so...
It was more of a recap, this.
Yeah, pretty much.
I do have a hope that it's gonna be better when we get more seasons, like going back to it after we have some more story, that it's gonna be more rewarding, that like hopefully they're putting down some more building blocks, and I just can't tell yet.
Yeah, I feel the same, but it's a bit of a shame to sit after 8 episodes and think, I really hope this makes sense after next season that I'll see in 2 years' time. That's not really what I think is the best thing, because if everything ended after season 1, I would have thought that's a great season of television. And now I'm feeling a bit like it was definitely worse than the first, I think. Much weaker than first season.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Unfortunately, I did think it had some strong episodes as well this season, but overall, and maybe especially because I feel like this last episode was lackluster, then that of course is gonna paint the rest of it quite strongly as well for me.
Maybe we should have waited another 6 months and just had 2 extra episodes. I know I would have.
Yeah, coming out of it now, then yeah, I think you might be right there.
Well, is there anything else to say?